Welcome to the Slow Smoked Pigskin podcast. I'm Darren.
And I mean Drew. And this is
our podcast.
What are you doing? You're not Aaron.
You're not Drew.
I think we should go.
That was weird, right?
Yeah, it was.
Anyways, I'm Aaron,
I'm Drew.
and this is our podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 42 of the Slow Smoke Pigskin podcast. After a week hiatus because life. I'm still Aaron. Are you still Drew? I think you're still Drew. Wait, your microphone's not working. I can't hear you. You're muted. Why did you mute yourself?
I didn't mute myself.
Well, it said mute there. Now I can hear you. Okay, we're good. Huh, good start after a little hiatus. All right, so since we missed 2 weeks, I'm not going to go over all of the Week 10 results, but I got to throw out there Week 10 winner, Janelle. She had her first weekly win of the season with 79 points. Should have been her second win of the season if she hadn't done that early season mess up of setting her lineup, but she was dang close to her max, only could have had an extra 5 points. And then this week's winner, Week 11, Jason Freeman with his second win of the season, 168.5 points. The real bummer about it is that if I had set my perfect lineup, I would have had 191 and beat him. But as we've established, I have a complete inability to set an optimal lineup because that's just kind of what I do. So getting into the matchups for the week. So Jason with his overachiever performance beat Neil 168 to about 134. Neil got 14.4 from Jaden Daniels. While he left, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but let me just hint that he had Michael Pittman all of a sudden on his bench, and he had Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow went off for 29 points on Steve's team, while Neil only got 14 out of his quarterback. We call this foreshadowing. Jason played a bunch of random-ass wide receivers who all performed big for him. Jerry Jeudy had 23 points. Juwan Jennings, who suddenly might be the wide receiver one in San Francisco, with 20 points. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling shows up to the Saints, who no longer have wide receivers because they all got hurt, and now MVS is scoring touchdowns every week. So what the heck? Neil got a big day from Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had 33.2 points as the number one wide receiver on the week. He was 11 targets, 11 catches for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you didn't see, the Lions absolutely curb stomped the Jaguars.
Destroyed.
It was, and
they didn't let up. Like, it was 30-4, 30-3, and they're like, we're going to throw touchdowns. We're just throwing touchdowns.
Yeah, they had, I thought I threw this in here somewhere, but maybe I didn't. The Lions had, I think I put it in where whoever played Goff. But anyways, the Lions had more touchdowns as a team than Goff had incompletions. And the craziest part is that's the third time that's happened this season.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. And last week was like, it was that fluke where you thought that, and all of a sudden he threw 4 interceptions last week.
Yeah, it was 4
or the week before.
It was a whole bunch. I mean, he still won that game with 5 picks, but
right.
Yeah. Jason had the best kicker of the week. Ooh, exciting. Dicker the kicker. Well, let me rephrase that. He had the best starting kicker because somebody else left the actual best kicker on their bench. But Jason left Bo Nix on the bench, who had almost 29 points. Bo Nix looks legit. The Broncos are a playoff team. What is happening? Like, I don't
you got the right pieces, the coach. Like, I don't know. But yeah, Bo Nix. But it's a pleasant surprise. It doesn't really surprise too much just because of the amount of games that he played in the college level
60.
and he was ready to go.
Yeah.
Versus some of these other rookie quarterbacks, Drake May, for example, who still looks like a college quarterback. Bo Nix looks like an NFL quarterback.
And at the same time, Bo Nix ended up in a good system for the type of quarterback he is, which is probably why Peyton wanted him as early as he did. So, a lot of people thought Bo Nix was going in like the second round or something, and he ended up at, 12, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, the number one fantasy score of the entire week was Taysom Hill. And guess what? He was on Neil's bench.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill put up just short of 40 points, but he did it by 1 of 2 passing for 18 yards, 7 carries for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns, 8 catches on 10 targets for an additional 50 yards. And, oh, by the way, he lost a fumble, so his score could have been even higher had he not done it. Like, Taysom Hill suddenly the number one fantasy option for a week.
He has those games every year. Like,
yeah, he does.
You have to just kind of find that game, and if you happen to start him, good for you. But I mean, he's not going to be this fantasy, scorer for the rest of the season. Like this was his game. That's all.
Well, the only thing is that, they got a new head coach or an interim head coach for the time being who seems to love him some Taysom. So
maybe it'll be different, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. By the way, before we go on to the next matchup, Drew, I'm shocked that you haven't said anything about my attire.
I think part of it's because I already knew it was going to happen. But yes, you have burned the Cowboys jersey. I mean, retired it. What do you?
It's still over there. I'm debating boycotting it until Jerry Jones goes away. But
I like this look much better, to be honest.
Well, I'm repping. You can't see it. I'm repping Coors. And I got Fort George, which is another brewery in Oregon. So beer doesn't let me down like the Cowboys do.
Beer never broke my heart.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Sorry. Next matchup.
All right. This is a tough one to swallow here. This is match number 2 is between myself and Steve. Steve got the best of me at 151.54 points versus my 150.48. Aaron had texted me mid-Sunday afternoon. Thank you. So we're in multiple leagues together. Thank you so much for taking care of the Jacksons this week because I'm playing Heather in the other league. I'm playing Steve in this league, and I had leads in both. And I beat Heather and barely lost to Steve.
Yeah, this was the closest matchup of the week.
Narrowest victory. Well, I mean, yeah, and Steve is just sets lineup after lineup, and he had Saquon, big surprise, go off again for almost 33 points. Aaron had already mentioned Burrow going off for 29. Zach Bond, who Steve had picked up and dropped and picked up and dropped, whatever, 15 points.
IDP.
I got almost 20 points out of my IDP, who's been carrying my team all season, Andrew Van Ginkel. I needed 5 points from Jaden Tolbert on Monday night, and at the end I thought for sure, garbage time, he's going to get it, and they took him out.
Yeah, no, the last bunch of the fourth quarter there, you had CD out, they had Tolbert out, they were playing people who hadn't been on an NFL field yet because they were just getting so badly beat.
I get it, but
the Cowboys.
Who was the guy that was getting the ball? Turpin?
Yeah.
Which he was playing Tolbert's spot. Anyways. It was a tough one. I don't really have much of a chance to make the playoffs and win this thing anyways, but it would have been nice to at least win another week, scoring 150 points.
Yeah, my bad. I jinxed you. I'm sorry.
I forgive you. Thank you for taking out the CD Lamb jersey.
There you go. All right, our next matchup was the stink fest of the week. Josh with 114 against Eddie with only 95. But on top of Eddie obviously had the lowest, well, not obviously, but Eddie had the lowest score of the week. But on top of that, he was also the worst manager in terms of how many points he could have scored. So yeah, not great. That being said, for Josh, T. Higgins was back healthy, and he showed why he got franchise tag. 25 points out of T. I mean, I don't know. That's going to be such a weird situation at the end of the season because they got to sign Chase to an extension, and then they have to make a decision on T. Higgins. But T. Higgins showed like he's got chemistry with Burrow, and he's a good player. He's a big target. So who knows?
I was actually able to go to that game, and I got to see him. I got to see them play, and it's different watching it real, obviously, versus on TV. Like, he is massive. And
oh yeah, he's a big dude.
He like at that second half when they finally started clicking, like when Burrow had to run the ball and escape pressure. Like he was the guy that he could find and he was throwing to, and he was open. He had yards after catch. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was really fun unique to kind of get to see him live and watch it in person.
Yeah, for sure. For Eddie, Kyle Pitts sucked again. 1.4 points. Like, we had been getting a little bit of hope back for Kyle Pitts after, some disappointing seasons. Guess what? Back to 1.4. A week after scoring the game-winning touchdown against the Ravens for the Steelers, Mike Williams had a goose egg. That's not great. But then Josh tried to, compete with Kyle Pitts' positive 1.4, and Atlanta's defense got him negative 1.4. Like, okay, let's offset some stuff here. And for some reason, Eddie left Chase Brown on the bench. Like, Eddie's not tanking yet. He does that in the playoffs. There's no reason for him to do it now.
I mean, you happen to start the worst lineup. Come on, maybe.
I don't know why. I know that there was some injury concerns with Chase Brown, and maybe he thought that the Chargers' defense is really good.
It's true.
But Chase Brown is running away with the job in get it, running away because he's a running back.
He's a running
away. I didn't even mean to do that. Is running away with the job in Cincinnati. He looks way better. Zach Moss is out now on IR. Anyways, they brought in Khalil Herbert, who basically hasn't seen the field since he got there in a couple of games because the first time he got on the field, they fumbled, and he pretty much hasn't got another shot. So, yeah, Josh, Eddie, that was not worth paying attention to.
Nope. Matchup 4 on the week, we had Jason Smith beat Joe 141.98 to 118.56. Joe got our Underachiever Award of the week.
Meaning that he was the lowest below his projection.
Correct. Lion once again had more touchdowns than incomplete passes. I think we talked about this already.
Yep.
Which means Goff went off for basically 35 points. Which Joe got in a trade, correct?
Yeah, Joe.
No, Jason got
him in the trade. Yeah. We didn't talk about that trade yet. We can just talk about it now real quick. Excuse me. Man, you got me confused now.
Sorry.
Jason got Jared Goff because he needed a quarterback because him and I had made the trade earlier in the season and his quarterbacks were Dak and Justin Fields, neither of who's a starter anymore. So he traded Goff away straight up for Darnell Mooney, which is, Steve, I don't know why he thought he needed another receiver, but Jason definitely needed a quarterback. So
it's interesting that Steve traded away Goff and then traded for Burrow.
Yeah, well, he knew he needed another quarterback.
Right.
But he was trying to get a top-end quarterback. We're going to talk about that trade in detail in a few minutes.
Okay. J.K. Dobbins went off for 18-4. He had 2 touchdowns. He had the game-winning touchdown. He didn't really have many yards, if I remember correctly, but with the 2 touchdowns, that puts him in good fantasy condition. Somehow Jonnu Smith, how do you pronounce it? Is the most valuable Miami pass catcher right now. He also had 2 touchdowns.
I mean, like, Jalen Waddle.
Technically, he had 3 because he threw the ball up in the air and it landed in his kid's hands.
That's so crazy. Like,
how that happened, I don't know.
I saw that video. He just randomly tossed it up and it landed in his family.
Crazy. Didn't even know the kid was sitting there. Like later on, figured it out. But
yeah, but like Jalen Waddle's basically unplayable this year. He's got, I don't know if he's crossed 10 fantasy points, and Tyreek had a decent day. I think he had low double digits, but Jonnu Smith is catching 2 touchdowns. Like, what are they doing in Miami? Like,
they're winning. Well, they're winning.
No, they're not. They're like 4-7.
Well, no, they had a rough patch because Tua was out. He was unconscious. Give him ice. What did I say?
You said unconscious. You said the right word. I was just laughing at the fact that you called him unconscious. He was concussed. I didn't think he was unconscious.
I'm sure he was concussed, unconscious, blacked out at one point in time. Anyways, yes, I think give them some time. Like they need more time. Like this is the beginning of they had to start their season all over again. Okay. Like they're coming back into it. The running game is now better because they can throw the ball a little bit. Like I say, come playoff time, if you have those guys on your team, like they might be more worthwhile. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson started again, and all of a sudden, hey, I look like I'm the best quarterback ever. But I got 28 points, and he was left on Joe's bench, so that could have helped him out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in Indy. Like,
well, I mean, they said that Joe Flacco's our starter for the rest of the season, and then he had 3 horrible games, and they're like, well, if we're gonna lose anyways, we might as well try and get the kid some experience. And then all of a sudden, Richardson comes back and played pretty well. Like,
I think he ran for a touchdown.
He didn't have a ton. Like, he had 10 rushes for only I think it was only 30 something yards. But the shocking part is that before this game, he had a completion percentage on the season of 44%, and he was 67% this weekend. So it's
maybe he needed to restart.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. And then Jason had the actual best kicker in the league, but he left him on the bench. If you didn't watch, Boswell won the game against the Ravens for the Steelers because he was all of their scoring.
Did he win the game or did Tucker lose the game?
Oh, yeah. Dude, I am so shocked.
Played a huge factor in that game.
Oh, yeah. I just can't believe, Justin Tucker's missed a bunch of things lately. I think he missed an extra point the week before. He's missed, 3 or 4 field goals in 2 games. He used to be the most automatic kicker in the league. And suddenly he's got the yips. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. But I don't know if it doesn't hold any fantasy value to it, but Justin Fields almost lost that game for them. He slid
when he slid too early.
He slid short. And then they had to put
No, he came back in for the next play. Russ?
Yeah.
Well, but no, they
commercial out. Undeniable, though. Never mind. Forget it.
Dangerous. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it'll come to me.
All right. Next matchup. Somehow wasn't the most narrow matchup of the week because of how close Drews and Steve was, but Raph beat Adrian by 1.15 points, 128.68 to 127.53. By the way, Raph went into Monday night way down. I thought that matchup was over. And Monday night, because of how disgustingly pathetic the Cowboys are, the Houston defense had 27.53 fantasy points to get Raph the win over Adrian. Adrian at least beat the median to get one win out of it, but that's gotta hurt to lose because somebody's defense put up almost 30 points on Monday night. That's
when kickers put up those big points and the defenses and then the IDPs, it's hard to say hey, let's get rid of the IDP, and it's just dude, the IDP, I'm all for getting rid of the IDP, but he's been carrying my team all season. When you're averaging almost 12, 15 points just in one player that your running back one can't get you, oh man.
Yeah, for sure. speaking of things that they can't get you, Raheem Mostert had 3 carries for -2 yards, which should have been negative fantasy points, except he got lucky because he had 23 return yards, which at least made him positive, but it was like 0.4 points. Like, whoa.
You can't,
that's tough. I'm telling you, this Miami offense is
unpredictable.
Yeah, that's the word I was going to use. Also shocking, we're just talking about IDP. Myles Garrett, one of the best defensive players in the league, had 0 points. Now, I think he got injured, but I don't think he was out for most of the game. I think he was playing. So the fact that he had 0 points,
even get an assisted tackle, like that's nothing. Crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But Cooper Kupp was the one major bright spot in that matchup. 25.5 points, 6 of 10, 106 for 6 of 10. 6 catches on 10 targets for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. I didn't mention it because I think he was on someone's bench, but Matthew Stafford had a really good day.
No,
the interesting
he was not on my bench. He was my starting quarterback.
Oh, was he?
Uh-huh.
Oh, my bad. Okay, well,
it's okay.
The thing is that
I lost and you jinxed me, so I'm over it. It's okay.
Yeah. Stafford had a really good day. That's what happens when you've got Kupp and Nakua back. However, the one negative for that is also for you, is that Kyron is all of a sudden not as involved because they're passing the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the rest of the season. If Kupp and Nakua are healthy and they just start slinging it, I don't know.
But you still got to start them just because you hope that they get a lead and they can feed them the ball.
You can't.
I scored 150 points and my RB1 had 8. I'm okay right now. Yeah,
for sure.
All right. So our last matchup. I didn't realize you were playing Janelle. Yeah. You want to talk about this one? No. Aaron came back, if I'm not mistaken.
I was down
what was the last play? You were texting me saying that you were going to lose, but Mixon scored the touchdown at the end of toward the end of the game on Monday night to beat Janelle 154.38 to 145.47. He had that big run at the end of the game and then a touchdown, and that gave him, I think it gave you 8 points right there.
It did. I went into that game. I had Brandon Aubrey and Joe Mixon. I can't remember if Janelle had anyone going Monday night. I don't think so. I'm double checking. Yeah, she didn't have anybody going. So I just had those two and a 30-point deficit going into it. And it was crazy because at one point, Brandon Aubrey kicked a 64-yard field goal, and I was up by 3 points. And then there was a penalty on the play, and they negated it, and I was back down 2 points. And then nothing happened for a long time. We were down to 4 minutes left in the game, and I was like, I'm going to lose by 1 point because
he literally unjinxed himself by texting me, we're both going to lose. Yeah, I lose and he wins.
Yeah, that happened. But yeah, thank you, Mr. Mixon. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and the crazy part with that Aubrey kick is that they're like, no, we want to keep going. And they got 0 points out of it. Yeah, I want to say, was that the play where they got the defensive touchdown? No.
But they got the ball. They drove down. They got to the 20 or 30, I think. And then they went for it on 4th down.
Twice they went for it on 4th down.
And turned it over on downs. Oh, and early in the game, they faked a punt. It was I
didn't think, so this is a side note. I didn't think McCarthy was the problem. But after watching that game and seeing the play calling and the decision making by the coaches, it's 100% the coaches, 100%.
Yeah, I mean it's the coaches and the front office because they made horribly stupid moves. We've had the conversation that I think Dak is a good starting quarterback and the Cowboys should have kept him. I never said they should make him the highest paid quarterback in the league. Now he's out for half the season.
Right place at the right time.
Yeah, good for him in terms of in terms of real life, but like he's a good person, but like he's not worth $60 million a year. But
no, but if he was up for contract,
and they did this dumb crap of waiting until the very last minute to sign Dak, to sign CD. They didn't build up any other parts of the team in the offseason. We knew that they were going to be worse. So the coaching staff sucks. The management making all the decisions sucks. Like, I don't see a turnaround for the Cowboys anytime soon. Like, it's bleak to me. Like,
they're going to trade Dak. And they're gonna draft Shadur Sanders, and Dion's gonna be the coach, and they're gonna think that that's the answer. And
by the way,
you're gonna try to win with a Brock Purdy quarterback salary. Anyway,
by the way,
Hall also showed up in this matchup.
Okay, we'll move on. Yep, go ahead.
I'm moving on.
Yep. Okay.
We could do an entire separate episode on just this.
Go. I'm done.
Brees Hall showed up again, 27.6 points. Good. That helped Aaron out. So Caden Ellis was picked up by Janelle. We're not really sure who he is, but he keeps getting points for her and carrying the team.
That's some IDP I've never heard of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Caden Ellis. Who the hell is Caden Ellis? But
she did her research.
Yeah, I don't know who this guy is, and he keeps putting up double-digit points for her. I don't know. He's fake. She hacked the app. She's
got people on the inside. I don't know. She's also got good wide receiver play from Puka. 22 points, 7 out of 9, 123, and a touchdown.
I meant to put other players in there. Apparently I didn't. She also had Jamar Chase, who had 75.
Chase had a good game.
He had 2 touchdowns. Addison had a touchdown. So she got a bunch of wide receivers.
Coming down to the end, towards the end of our season, going into the playoffs, like that's your team. Her team is rolling on all cylinders. Like, I don't think 150 points in playoffs is going to be that. Like, I think that's going to be on the high side. I think you're looking more at the 140s. That is going to be your championship matchups. So if you can be consistent at that, I think that you have your good chance of taking the league this year. But
yeah, Steve has the most points for. He's like just short of 145. I'm less than a point a game behind him. I'm at 144 point something. So that's the average for the top teams this year.
And the thing that's impresses me the most about Steve is his lineup
accuracy
percentage.
Yeah,
and it's almost 90%.
Yeah,
it's not even that he's scoring points, but just like he literally is putting, and haven't really dug into his team too much, but is it that he doesn't have many options and his options are just plain, or is he actually setting the lineup that needs to be set? So
he is setting the lineup that needs to be set, whether that's great luck for the season or he's doing some kind of analytics and getting it right. I couldn't tell you, haven't asked him. Right. But he is at a 90. I think the last time I looked, he was just short of. He was 89 point something percent.
I want to say 89.7 if I remember correctly. But
yeah, for his starting accuracy, I'm down at like 84, 85, and
right. Which is
big deal.
Better than most, but
that's better than I'm normally. I'm normally more.
I think I'm at like 82%. There's some people's a little bit below 80. But that low 80s seems to be with about 100 and I want to say the average is the point scored. I want to say was about between 130 and 140, somewhere in there. Like
probably about.
I looked earlier. I don't remember exactly what the number is, but
yeah, 130 sounds about right. Like our median is usually in the 120 to 130
mid 20s. Yeah. All right, so the standings update. As of now, we have Jason in the lead, with staying in the lead, holding that spot there. Steve, Aaron, all 1, 2, and 3. Josh has moved up a spot, and Janelle has moved up a spot to 4 and 5. Adrian did drop 2 spots, even though he got the one. He split the win-loss, but still holds in that last playoff spot. Joe, Raph, and myself stayed even. I think we all split. Raph may have gotten 2 wins. I think he
No, Raph got 2 losses. Oh, he got. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yes, he got 2 wins.
He got
yes,
2 wins, so he moved. Or he
Yep.
stayed even with the 2 wins.
Yep.
Jason Smith is making a resurgent comeback after being in the tank for so long. Being 10, Neil dropped to 11, and Eddie is where he wants to be, back in the toilet bowl, even though he doesn't have the toilet bowl trophy yet. Joe.
Yeah, Joe, get on it.
Not that you listened to this because you forgot that we do this anyways, but
Yeah,
I'm
valid.
putting it out there.
Yeah, and just to throw it out there, Jason has won 12 straight. I mean, that's 6 weeks straight, but each one he's gotten 12.
Smith?
Jason Freeman.
Oh, okay.
Since he's in first place, 12 straight wins, which means 6 weeks where he's beat his opponent
Everybody.
and the median, and he's officially clinched the playoff spot already. So good for you.
Oh, I didn't read that part. My bad.
Yeah, you're all good. Waivers happened over the last 2 weeks. None of them were anything very exciting. So we had 2 trades in the league, both involving Steve over the last 2 weeks. We already mentioned he got Darnell Mooney from Jason Smith for Jared Goff. And then the other trade.
You're bitter about this trade.
Oh, I'm bitter about this one.
I know.
Steve got Joe Burrow, top 5 dynasty quarterback, and Rashad White, who is useless nothing at this point, from Neil for Michael Pittman, who is now like the wide receiver 3 on his team, and a 2025 first, which, by the way, Steve is in second place at the moment.
It's going to be it's a high-end second-round pick is essentially what it is.
I will be shocked if it's not between 110 and 112.
Correct.
Yeah, Steve, this is bordering on trade rape. This is bordering. But the 2 adults agreed on it. I was happy to see when when Steve traded away Goff, that he had left himself only Baker and then other options, and instead now he's got a top quarterback. So Neil just helped Steve's championship run, and I'm mad at Neil even though I haven't told him that. So it is what it is. They agreed on it. They obviously might have seen it differently than I do.
The problem is that Neil thinks my assumption is Neil's in a rebuild and wants draft picks.
Yep.
And think like 2 first-round picks. I had 2 last year, and it's like it's beneficial to have. Yeah. The more picks you have earlier in the rounds, the better it is. And if you're in a rebuild, you don't need.
I get it, but Joe Burrow's still young. Burrow is probably worth at least
right,
2
but didn't
firsts.
Neil pick up 2? Doesn't he have Knicks and May?
Huh?
Oh, he's got Jaden Daniels?
No, Jason got Knicks in May. Neil has Jaden Daniels. Neil got Jaden Daniels, but in 2 years when we go to Superflex, Daniels and Burrow would have been a great pair.
Right, but he's going to get it. He's going to get a quarterback, and he's going to get a quarterback and a running back in the first 2 rounds of the next draft.
Well, we'll see. Either way, it is what it is. I don't like it.
Neil's thinking long term, and Steve is thinking now, and that's why it makes. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I also say like, hey, it makes sense for what each team is doing right now.
Fine.
That's all I'm saying.
Bet board. I don't even need to talk about Flowers versus Ridley. We all know that's horrible.
The only thing we're going to talk about is what it is. What's the consequence for losing?
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
Hey, leave ideas in the comments.
Hey, there you go.
All right. Raph is actually. I think at this point, Raph is pretty much already lost.
We should leave it up to the league. That's a good idea.
I never agreed to this.
What the league can vote on whatever. The punishment needs to be, and that's what it's going to be.
I didn't agree to this. All right. Raph, I think, might have already lost to Jason in their season-long bet. That being said, Raph versus Joe in their bet might be the most exciting race that we have in anything in this league this year.
In anything in the league.
They are tied 10-12 again, but Joe owns the tiebreaker.
But that's our tiebreaker. That's not even their tiebreaker.
Well, we've decided their tiebreaker. I think that's. Oh, Joe has a commanding. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's points against. Points for Joe's 1339 and Raph is 1290. So 50 points. It's not insurmountable.
No,
but this is a tight matchup.
I've seen both teams score a lot of points. I've seen both teams garbage each week. So I feel like they were pretty even right now.
Yeah. Before I get into NFL news, because I'm going to have to run through it really quickly because we're almost out of time. Next week is one of those bye-apocalypse weeks. 6 teams on bye: Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Saints, and Jets. That is a lot of fantasy-relevant players there. I have Josh Allen and Breece Hall. I don't have them this week. That sucks. I actually saw a post on Instagram earlier today where it was like, oh, I don't care about bye weeks at the draft, and it showed somebody's lineup where everybody was on bye except for one player. It was like, oh, ouch. Quickly running through some other NFL news. Since we didn't record last week, Chuba Hubbard got 4 years and $33 million with up to 37 in incentives, 15 guaranteed from the Panthers. That really hurts some of my Jonathan Brooks stock. Daniel Jones is being benched, and some reason Tommy DeVito is the starter. Like, what happened to Drew Lock? I understand this move. They don't. If Jones gets
none of them are better than Daniel Jones, so does it really matter?
Well,
just stick with Daniel Jones.
But Daniel Jones, if he gets hurt and can't pass a physical in the offseason, then his money for next year is guaranteed. So I think that's what they're trying to avoid. Gabe Davis done for the season with a torn meniscus. Marshawn Lloyd, rookie running back for the Packers, was supposed to be somewhat involved, and they were game planning for this week. And instead, he got appendicitis and had to have emergency surgery and is now on the NFI list. That's just
it's like a week. He'll be fine.
I think it's supposed to be longer, but either way.
Shouldn't be.
It was a tough week for tight ends. George Kittle missed the week with a hamstring, but is hopefully back this week. Dalton Kincaid missed this week with a knee injury. The Bills are on bye next week, so he may be back after that. Sam Laporta didn't play because of a sprained AC joint. I'm not sure the outlook on that.
I heard he's trending good to be back.
Okay. Jake Ferguson in the stomping by the Texans got a concussion. Considering they played Monday night, it's unlikely that he's going to be back for Sunday. Darnell Mooney left with a hamstring, but it doesn't seem serious. He should be back. Tajay Spears got a concussion. Both Raiders running backs, Alexander Madison and Zamir White, left the game. So if you're in a league where you need a spot start for this week because of Bipocalypse, you can go look at Amir Abdullah and Dylan Laube. Keon Coleman missed his second straight with a wrist injury. Once again, Bill's on bye next week, so maybe he'll be back. Nico Collins was finally back from his hamstring injury. Do you know that despite the fact he missed like 6 or 7 weeks, whatever it was with his injury, he was still the wide receiver 17 going into the week with all that time missed. That's how dominant he was before he went out. And then Mike Evans is practicing after his, he's been out for multiple weeks with his hamstring injury. They just came off the bye. So Mike Evans may be returning this week, finally.
I see you didn't put Pacheco. He's back practicing as well.
I did forget to put Pacheco. You're absolutely right. He has been designated to return. There's been some discussion that he might be back in week 12. It's still uncertain, but I thought that they weren't talking until him being back until the playoffs. It's looking like it's going to be a lot sooner than that.
Yeah.
So
they lost, so that's cool.
Yeah, Chiefs finally lost. They've turned into the Patriots, and now everybody
and be undefeated.
Yeah, the whatever that was, 1970 Dolphins popped their champagne because they're still the only undefeated team ever.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was fun. I missed doing this last week. I'm glad we got back to do it this week, and hopefully we'll continue to do so.
Yes, sir.
Cheers, bud.
Cheers, dude.
See ya.
Later.